Hi, I'm Jake, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be swapping the clutch on my 1973 Datsun 510, and while we're at it we're going to fit a lightweight Kameari flywheel. So here we have the car in the garage, and here is some lovely shiny new hardware to fit. So this is like a standard flywheel. This is from a truck actually, this is from the old engine. I did swap flywheels when I fitted it. The one that's in there currently is very similar to this, but it's just got a little bit on this outer edge, sort of about that far, turned off the whole way around. This one is 13.1 kilograms or 29 pounds. This new one is so much lighter. Like, bloody hell, that's heavy. But that is basically just solid steel. This one, on the other hand, it's got nothing to it. I think this is supposed to be about 10 pounds. No, it can't be that, can't be right. I don't know, it's about 5 kilos, just under 4 point something. It's not the lightest one they do. They do one that's got holes through it as well, but don't really need that for a road car. The other benefit of doing this, which is sort of the thing that kicked all this off, is this is a bigger diameter clutch than the standard one. So standard one is a 200mm for the 4-cylinder L series engines. And this one is a 225, which is what they would have used in like the L6s. So 240Zs, etc. So I've got a bigger clutch, which should hopefully prevent it slipping. So when I was mapping the car a little while back after putting the throttle bodies on, there were a few instances where the clutch slipped a little bit. So I think I'm on the limit of that. So hopefully this will help. So giving it some full load. So this is 100% on the throttle position all the way through this region. I did lift off at the end here. You might really see this RPM spike. I think the clutch slipped, but so much power I'm making. Yeah, boys. So I'm hoping this won't be a massively long job. It's going to be awkward because it's gearbox out for sure, but hopefully it won't take me too long. So clutch, flywheel, clutch. Don't really have to do too much in the engine bay on this job, so I will have to remove the gear stick. So remove the gear stick and surround, drop the prop shaft out. Oh, I've just realised I'm going to have to drop the cross member as well, engine cross member. Yeah, first step though, get the car up in the air. So car is up off the ground. I am denied about where to put these stands because I'm going to have to drop the cross member slightly. Basically, if I drop the engine and cross member down, it just brings the gearbox and everything away from the bulkhead. It goes down the back there. There's not enough clearance to just slide that gearbox straight back. So it's easy if you just drop the cross member down, lower the whole engine and everything down. It comes out quite easy. Also, these are in the way. Somebody please come and buy them. So I've got my old Mark IIs, 14 by 8.5 and 14 by 6.5, I think. These 4 work equips, 14 by 7, I think, and 14 by 6.5. Yeah, come and buy them. So yeah, next up I think I'll take the gear stick off inside the car and then remove the prop. Probably should have done this before jacking the car up. It was a bit sketchy to be at this sort of angle, but still. Get this off. So this is actually an MGB gear surround. Sort of fitted that when I fitted this 5-speed gearbox. Does a quite nice job of covering up this hole. Yeah. Just going to thread these back in as well so I don't lose them. I like to do this when I'm doing most jobs really, just put screws and stuff back in the holes they belong in. Just means you don't misplace stuff. So just under the car, loosen the fill plug up on the side of the gearbox, up here somewhere. You can see my finger. Also made a mess on my hand. Draining the gearbox oil out, when that's finished, I'll start removing the prop.
So I've loosened the prop, but can't get out because the exhaust is in the way. And the handbrake cable back there. So I'm just taking this off and I'll just show you what I've got here. So it's got a flexi joint and a V-band. These are about the lowest point on the car. As you can see, the flexi and the V-band are both a little bit scraped. They are about the only part of this car that does ever catches on speed bumps and stuff occasionally. So I think at some point in the future I'll move this and sort of put it up around the corner up there, just to give a bit more ground clearance. But yeah, let's get the exhaust off. So I remembered I've got to remove the starter motor, so I've just disconnected the battery here in the boot. I've got one of these cube fuse terminals on here. Really, really handy if you've got a remotely mounted battery. Just means the whole cable's protected if you need to. And also, this little wing nut, just 3D printed, goes on there, means you can disconnect the battery without using any tools or anything. Oh, there goes the cable. The good thing about this as well is if the fuse does blow and you really need to get home, you can just take this off, bolt the terminal back on, and then it is unfused, but sort of will get you going. Yeah, really like these little terminals. So, centre section of the exhaust is out over there. The prop is also out. I've got this backing plate out because I need to remember to fit it this time, because the one I've got currently doesn't cover the bottom half of the flywheel. Starter motor's removed. I've also removed the 2 bolts between the engine and gearbox at the top here, because you need to access those from the engine bay. I think I'm at the stage where I can start lowering stuff down. So underneath the car, still got the cross member back here that will need to be lowered, and then I'll lower the front cross member as well just to get a bit more clearance. Might remove the engine mounts, TBC. I can't remember how I did this last time. I'm pretty sure I just resorted to dropping the front cross member, which allowed me to then angle the engine and everything enough to get some good clearance to get the gearbox out. Like I said, I don't have a engine crane here, so I can't take it out the top. Yeah, making some progress. I think I'll start by doing the front cross member. So it's just 2 bolts either side, so up here and over here. That should drop down. Doesn't need to drop far, a couple of inches maybe. I think the steering linkage will be the limiting factor, but at least it'll allow me to get some angle on it. Figured I should probably show you what's going on. So I've got the gearbox supported at one end with a little jack. Got the front cross members supported by the other jack and the body on the stands. You might be able to see cross members dropped a little bit, not a bit more on the other side, but not too much. But basically this allows the whole thing to rotate a little bit. We go into the engine bay. Because, hopefully there's enough clearance there to get the gearbox out. Because where it normally sits in the engine bay, if you try moving it back, you end up hitting the sort of transmission tunnel, whereas I've got a bit more clearance now. So I'm going to try and remove the last couple of bolts and slide that gearbox back. Probably won't be able to film anything because it's a bit awkward under here, it's dark, there's not a lot of space. So I'll see how I get on. There we go, gearbox is out. That was surprisingly easy actually. There's only sort of 4 bolts that hold it onto the engine. So 2 at the top and then 1 on either side. So only 2 bolts under the car, had it all held on jacks. Lowered it down due to the angle it was at, came out fairly easily actually. So you can sort of see the angle. You can see how much clearance is down in there. So yeah, all came out pretty straightforward and pretty easy. I might try and get the car a little bit higher for when I put this back in again, just because there's really not a lot of space under the car. I'm talking like a foot or so. It was a tight squeeze getting the gearbox out. Like if the car was an inch lower, you literally couldn't have removed it from under the car because of how tall it is. So yeah, might try and jack the car up a little bit more before putting it back in, but now to remove the old clutch and flywheel. So old flywheel out, and I've given it away. It is actually quite a bit lighter than this spare one I had. So you can see around the outside there's a little bit of material removed, but also if I turn it around without catching my fingers, you can see there's quite a bit less material on the back as well. This one's like from the ring gear, it sticks out another like 5 or 6 mil pretty much all the way across, whereas this one is pocketed. So
This one was £29 or 13.1 kilos. And the one that was in the car, £21.8, which is, I think that's a line, 9.9 kilos. And I weighed the whole assembly, so clutch, pressure plate and the flywheel, along with the new ones, and this is the difference. So this is the old one, and then this is the new one. So about 5 kilos in total lighter. I think the flywheel itself was more than 5 kilos lighter, but it's a bigger pressure plate, bigger clutch disc. So yeah, 5 kilos should hopefully be a decent improvement. Just need to pull the pilot bushing out the end of the crank, so I've got one there, and then we can start putting it back together. So I've taken the old pilot bush out the end of the crank. I ended up using the Dremel and basically cutting through it until it was thin enough to just pop it out with a screwdriver. Seemed to be the easiest way. And I've hit a stumbling block. So old pressure plate, new one. And as you can see, they are very clearly different heights, which poses a problem. So this is the sort of clutch release bearing and the little carrier sleeve. And basically, if the combination of this and this are not right, you will run out of throw on the clutch fork. I know this full well because when I fitted this clutch previously, or the gearbox actually, when I fitted the 5-speed, I ran into this problem before with this one. So this is the one that came with the 5-speed, I think. You can see the difference in length. And basically I ended up having this one in. I can't remember what my logic was, but I used this one and it was wrong. So that's for this one. I was hoping this one would be correct for both of these. I hadn't actually realised that this one would be so much shorter than this one, so I need to find a longer one of those. I've asked around, unfortunately it doesn't seem like anyone near me's got one, so I'm going to have to order one. Amayama do have them, so I think this is a 24 and I need a 28. Well, in reality it's actually a bit more than 4mm difference between these pressure plates, but I think 28's about the longest they do, so I'll order one of those. It's not very expensive, I think 18 quid shipped from Japan, but shipping from Japan is a problem. So yeah, I'll get that ordered and it'll be a couple of weeks I think before I can put this all back together. So what I'm going to do in the meantime, I painted up these brackets for the front cross member. I'm going to bolt the front cross member back up, put the car back on the ground and crack on with some other jobs for now. Just going to leave the gearbox off. It's over there for now, but I'll just leave it off I think and crack on with some other jobs. Bit disappointing, but oh well, what can you do? Problem is I didn't know this was going to be a problem until I got the old one out. But I'll make all the measurements and then next time hopefully I can preempt this sort of problem. So here's the old gearbox and I'm just doing some measurements to make sure I don't mess anything up. And I think the key dimension is from in here at the back, which is where this sleeve will sit. So like sort of when it's pushed all the way in. So from that back face in the center here to level with this front flange, because that's obviously a fixed distance and the clutch stack can't be any bigger than that. So that is 135mm. And within that 135mm, I've got to fit everything in this drawing. So we've got the engine at this end. So this is the face of the block. The crank sticks out a little bit, about 10mm. You then bolt the flywheel to this. Not to scale because I'm not very good at drawing. So flywheel, clutch plate, pressure plate around the top, bearing and sleeve. And as I said, maximum 135mm. So I've got a few dimensions here from the old setup in black and then the new one in blue. This is assuming I'm using the same 24mm sleeve that I currently have, which I know is too short. But I just wanted to know what sort of figures I was working with. So this is with everything fully assembled, pressure plate bolted down, etc. Often with these
clutches and stuff, they get quoted with the pressure plate like not bolted down, just on a flat surface. But to be honest, that doesn't really tell you a great deal because they move quite a bit once you bolt them down. The free measurement also is affected by the thickness of the clutch. So the thicker your clutch disc, the more the fingers sort of pull down when you tighten it. So yeah, so these are the numbers I've got. Flywheel is 1 millimeter thinner now, which is not helping things because the pressure plate is also much thinner. So that 1 mil difference here is up to 13 mil of this distance, and that 13 mil then carries through to all these. So yeah, about 13 mil short. The old setup was 134 mil over here, which is like quite close to the maximum it could have been. So I would call that pretty much spot on. So yeah, 13 mil difference, that's 28 mil. I have found a 32 mil version of this. I'll put a picture of the part number and part on the screen if I can find one. But yeah, I've ordered a 32 mil, so that's 8 mil difference, which will get this sort of difference down to 5 mil rather than 13. And I think that 5 mil difference will be okay. Like, it's not going to be too long to fit. It should leave the clutch fork in a reasonable position, and overall should work. So yeah, here's some numbers in case anyone else is going through the same issue in the future. So that's where we're going to leave it for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed, and if you have, please consider subscribing, and I'll catch you in the next one.